Hello everybody, it's me, Logan Albright. I'm here to continue my month of horror, October tradition of doing ghost stories and scary stories for all you to enjoy. So let's get right to it. Today I'm going to do the collected ghost stories of M.R. James. All right, I'm sorry I didn't upload a video yesterday. I usually do it over the weekends, but I was unable to do it this weekend, or more accurately, I just forgot. I was out seeing an Alice Cooper concert, and that's an appropriately spooky thing to do, and had a really good time with that, so that was a lot of fun. But now I'm back to it, reviewing ghost stories for your Halloween haunting pleasure. And today I'm doing the collected stories of M.R. James. Now, M.R. James was an academic and antiquarian. He was born in 1864 in England. So most of these stories were published around the late 19th century and an early 20th century. High Victorian period, very fertile ground for scary stories. He's considered by many people to be one of the very masters of the ghost story. H.P. Lovecraft spoke very highly of him. And so I wanted to read his books. So I got this collection, which is from Oxford World's Classics. And I've told you before on this channel, I do not like the binding or the presentation of Oxford World Classics. I don't think they're very well made books, but they do put out a lot of great collections that you can't get anywhere else. So in that respect, I have to give them credit. This is the only place I could find to get his complete ghost stories. So I got them at a low price, nevertheless. So anyway, it contains about 4 or 5 collections that he published during his lifetime of all his stories. And I was initially a little bit disappointed in these stories because they're a little tamer than what I was anticipating. But I think that that's a matter of expectations rather than quality. I saw people in the reviews talking about, oh, he's not as scary as Stephen King or Dean Koontz. I think that's kind of an absurd comparison to make. It's a completely different style of story. He's not really going for the absolutely horrific. It's more of a eeriness, I would say. M.R. James was fond of ghost stories at Christmas, which was an old tradition that people used to do. That's why Dickens wrote so many ghost stories. They used to read them around Christmas time. And they have a different character. They're a little bit more melancholy and a little bit more eerie rather than just downright horrifying. And I think that's kind of what M.R. James has captured here. He does a lot of things. He had some rules for ghost stories, and one of them was he thought that the setting should be modern and mundane. He didn't want to do things in faraway European castles or remote time periods that the reader couldn't relate to. He had a very intellectual approach towards writing. He thought you wanted to get inside the reader's head by using atmospheres and locations that they could relate to. So the atmospheres and locations in here tend to be libraries, churches, studies, drawing rooms, country lanes, all things that if you were growing up in early 20th century England, you'd be able to access very easily and relate to quite efficiently. One of his rules was that the apparitions should be malevolent rather than benevolent, and so the ghosts of these stories are not at all friendly. They're bad ghosts because he wanted to inspire fear. And then the other rule that he had was that you should avoid kind of the pseudoscience and the jargon of the occult that was popular at the time, spiritualism, things like that. And so he wanted to keep things more grounded, more natural. And so that's what he does in these stories. There's a lot of good ones. My own personal favorite is called Oh Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad, which takes place in a seaside holiday in a resort. And actually very effective and very chilling. I like that one a lot. But there's quite a few good ones in here. As I said, he was an antiquarian, so he takes every opportunity to describe old books or old cathedrals and things like that in great detail. And that does a lot towards building up the atmosphere of the stories. But again, by modern standards, they're going to be more eerie than they are going to be horrific. So it's a good kind of jumping off place. If you want to get started into the ghost story genre without going anything too modern or too horrific, this is sort of a good classic example of how ghost stories were written in the late Victorian period in England. And I think he does a good job, and I really enjoy these stories. I'm going to be doing another book of ghost stories next week that have a very different flavor, although they were written around the same time, and we'll compare and contrast and see which ones we like best, okay? So that's my review for this week, the collected ghost stories of Montague Rhodes James. If you want to read some nice, chilling, creepy, eerie ghost stories for the Halloween season, or indeed for the Christmas season, you would not go wrong with these stories. They are pretty good choices for that. Incidentally, I have a new phone, so you might notice the video quality of this is slightly different than my previous ones. If you thought I looked good before, you're going to think I look really good now. But anyway, I've been Logan Albright. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe, and be ready for me to come back next week with another video leading up to Halloween, another book of scary stories for your enjoyment, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.